couple of weeks ago, MrGirl released an interview with a healthy gamer coach, which I watched on stream. It led to me digging in a little bit to Dr. K's content. And I started to look into it along the lines of, like, what's Healthy Gamer about? What are they doing? And I found some stuff that was a bit kind of eyebrow raising. But then I started to dig more into Dr. K's support of Ayurveda. Now, there is a video on my YouTube channel, which you can watch if you want to see my kind of coverage and critique of Dr. K. Dr. K is a psychiatrist and also co-founder of healthygamer.gg, which is a website that claims to provide mental health support for the internet generation, which is more focused on the pseudoscience and his support of that sort of thing. And my content, I guess, diverged a bit, not only because it was I was more interested in, but I kind of felt like, well, MrGirl is like kind of talking about this stuff already. Like he's got a focus and he seems to know a bit what he's talking about. So, you know, more power to him. The Ayurveda Journal of Health. And we've kind of all been waiting for his video to come out. And his video centers more around his conduct with Recful. You know, is his content therapy, etc., etc. So, in any case, the video has finally been released. So we're going to watch this. We're going to respond to it, react to it, and see what we think. And then on Thursday, I'm going to be speaking to MrGirl on stream. So MrGirl is going to come on. Presumably, we're going to talk about the video and some of the other criticisms and critiques and whatnot as well. So yeah, look out for that. Let's have a look, see what's going on.
Have you seen the new stream by Harvard psychiatrist Dr. Kanoja? It's really cool. He helps gamers on stream. I'd love to see you have a conversation with him. He's starting nowish. Yeah, I would talk to him. That sounds interesting. Should I try to talk to him right now?
Who is Recful?
Oh shit.
Yeah, sure. We can talk to Recful. So tell me what are we talking about today, buddy?
Well,
am I calling you Recful?
Wait, hang on a second. This conversation was like ad hoc. That's such a good meme. I love that. Wait, okay. My perception was that, obviously, I've not looked into this in its totality. I've felt a bit weird about the Recful stuff, but I have commented on it, and people have shouted at me because I've criticized Dr. K for, like, maybe acting in a bad way. But the fact that this is a conversation where he breaks down and cries, isn't it? He just did this ad hoc off the back of Recful. That is, fucking hell.
You can call me Byron if you want.
What do you? But
yeah, I've dealt with depression my whole life, pretty much. I mean, since I was like 14, and I'm 30 now.
Okay.
And a bunch of people in my chat were telling me I should call you.
Okay.
So here I am.
And by the way, so a couple of ground rules. So I'm a psychiatrist, but I can't treat your depression over the internet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing is I tend to ask a lot of questions. If there's anything that you don't feel comfortable answering, just don't answer it. And just let me know.
Okay.
So tell me, what do you mean by depression? Let's start there.
Well, I've been diagnosed with bipolar type 2. And when I was 6, my brother killed himself. He also had it.
How old was he?
He was 21. It's a very big age gap.
Jesus Christ.
And then because of that, when I've gone to get treated, they never give me SSRIs. I've never tried an SSRI because he's tried an SSRI and then that happened after. Okay.
So let me ask you. Okay, now we're gonna get weird, Recful. Do you believe that life? What do you think of? What's your sense of like what life is? Like, what do you think about your life? Like, do you feel like your life has purpose?
Most of the time, no, but recently I've started to think yes, because I realize I can start trying to help other people who have had my same problems, so I relate to them. And then I hope by making this game I'm working on that they can find friendship and a sense of community, because I'm making an MMO.
Reality actually exists as a probability. Like, reality is not static, in that the act of observation causes a probability to collapse into a reality. So that, like the world exists as a probability waveform, And when you observe something, that probability disappears and it becomes a reality. When your depression acts up, and I want you to understand that depression is like a pattern of thinking within your mind, it takes the things that you know and distorts them. So it takes the fact, it hijacks this idea that you know that the world is like not a real place in some sense. And then it sort of makes you feel like there's no purpose because nothing is real. But let's talk a little bit more about depression today. So tell me what your experience of depression is.
This is very uncomfortable. Like, the amount that's being dug into here for something that isn't supposed to be anything more than a conversation. This is very, exactly. This is like very touchy stuff, very heavy stuff. So you've got two things here. I don't know, I'm giving my own takes. Obviously, MrGirl is probably going to make his own case. But the two aspects I'm thinking here are, this isn't, you said at the start, this isn't supposed, I can't treat your mental health, this is just like a conversation or whatever. But then he's probing, and he's going into all of these different angles about mental health, etc., etc., etc. And then also the fact that this is an ad hoc conversation. Like, how irresponsible to just have this conversation ad hoc and ask all these probing questions. You know nothing about this guy. He's got a history of serious mental health issues, and you're fucking digging about in his brain. This is like I'm not making any final proclamations about what I think, but I am just kind of commenting on some things I'm looking at already and going, well, hang on, what about this? What about this? Like, appreciate you said you're not going to treat the mental health condition, but you're probing into it a lot, and you're doing it. It's like trying to okay, I think of it like this. It's like trying to disarm a bomb, okay? And you know how to disarm a bomb, but you said, I'm not going to use the techniques that I know to disarm a bomb. I'm just going to fiddle around with the bomb and see what happens. That's kind of how I think of it, right? In terms of how this has come to be.
Okay, it's very hard. That's really generous. Very hard to explain.
It's fine.
The easiest way to explain is I've had
like should the dollar Dr. K.
I wake up every day and I don't see a purpose to doing anything. Okay. I don't see a purpose to getting out of bed. I don't care if I stream or don't, or if I
you should be cutting this off
or don't. At some point I get really hungry and I'm like, okay, I guess I have, like, I feel like it forces me to kind of,
Yeah.
But I don't really care one way or the other. And then I start to think I don't care if when I go to sleep, I don't care if I wake up. I'd prefer not to. Actually, the sleeping was the most peaceful part of my day.
Okay. And how long would this stretch last?
Years.
Okay. So I think this is a really common misconception. I think you may have clinical depression, but I think what you're describing is not clinical depression. So I'm going to explain to you guys what clinical depression is. I think your problem is that your life is empty. That's different. And in fact, that's what we were going to talk to the other person about today, and we will. So I got a bunch of questions about this because...
Wait, so you're saying you think I was diagnosed incorrectly when they said I have bipolar
You
type
may
2?
have depression on top of that. But what I want you to understand is that, like, there are different flavors of depression. One of them is a biological, organic, neurochemical kind of thing. And what I'm hearing but there are certain features of that you don't really fit that bill. So I'm going to describe what that is. So you may be depressed on top of being unhappy or having a life without purpose. But those are two independent things. So tell me a little bit about, so it doesn't sound...
How the fuck have people been defending this? How the fuck have people been defending this for so long? This is fucking insane. What the fuck? This is madness. This is pure madness. How has anyone defended this for so long? I'll tell you what, we're 5 minutes into the video. We're 5 minutes into the video. Because he's saying he's not going to treat him online, but then he's making claims about his medical diagnoses and his mental health. He's not even read his notes. He's not even read his notes. Like, how dare he fucking dig around in this guy's brain and his mental health without even... It's an ad hoc conversation. He's not even read his medical notes. He hasn't got a single fucking clue what he's talking about. He's presenting himself as a figure of authority, and he's making very, big claims about his mental health. come on. I don't know how else to explain to you that this is bad and this is fucked up. Like, this is explicit. This is really fucking bad.
Like, I'm not hearing anything about depression when you were in high school. You said 14, but you're not describing anything to me that...
Oh, yeah. No, because it's hard for me to really dig deep and remember. Okay, so when I was 16, I tried to kill myself.
Okay.
So when I was 16, I took 22 sleeping pills, and I drank a bottle of wine, and I tied a plastic bag over my head, and I fell asleep, and I just woke up later, and I had ripped the bag off my head, and I was alive. And what were you gonna ask?
Do you remember what you were feeling when you tried to kill yourself?
Listen, I've not watched the entirety of these it's just a conversation. Apparently not a therapy session. And he's asking about how he felt when he tried to kill himself. How the fuck has anyone been defending this shit? How the fuck is anyone this is, like, way worse than I thought.
He was really dumb. There was a game I was playing called Asheron's Call from when I was 10. It started dying because of World of Warcraft. And no one else was on to play anymore. And I felt like the only thing I cared about and the only thing I'd...
Relax. Psychotherapy isn't exact science. Quaz, I don't know if you're being a fucking idiot or memeing or whatever, okay? But this is the whole point. This isn't supposed to be psychotherapy. He's not supposed to be engaging in therapy with Rekful right now. This is an ad hoc conversation off the back of Rekful mentioning about speaking to Dr. K on his stream. Dr. K said, oh, Rekful, we can speak to Rekful. And then this conversation starts happening. So you saying, oh, you don't know about psychotherapy or whatever. No, that's complete bullshit, because this isn't supposed to be psychotherapy.
Practiced my whole life, and really
this is indefensible.
This is incredibly irresponsible. I was somewhat defending Dr. K before, but I didn't see this before.
You should not be... the fact he's asking about suicide. This is what I'm talking about. When we're looking at... Like, this is why I talk about the bomb thing, right? Imagine that you've got a ticking time bomb in front of you, okay? Like a movie, right? And you're the person that knows how to disarm a bomb, right? This is the equivalent. This is like kind of like someone going to disarm a bomb and going, I'm not going to use any of the skills to disarm this bomb. And then you just get in there and start fucking prodding about and pulling this and pulling that and da-da-da-da. Like, it's that level of, like, irresponsibility. Do you see the point I'm trying to make? Now, Auntie, listen, you're a fucking idiot, right? It don't matter what you said however long ago at the start. I can't deal with your thing. Well, then why is he asking about his depression? Why is he talking about suicide attempts? This is going to separate the wheat from the chaff when it comes to Dr. K, okay? The people that are still defending him after seeing all of this, they're a lost cause. They're literally cultists, okay? If you have engaged with content that points out Dr. K's pseudoscience, and you watch this and you're still defending him, you're a cultist. You're, at this point, somewhat of a lost cause when it comes to Dr. K. And I don't know what we'd need to do to convince you.
Thanks for the content. I don't think him talking about this with Rekful is the issue. It's his blurring the lines that makes it bad.
Thanks very much for the $10. Appreciate it.
Loved was irrelevant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, not great, but I think I'm starting to see a pattern. Okay. And why are you finding purpose again? What do you like about what you're doing?
I like that I'm trying to give people something I wanted as a kid.
Who's the focus on? Who are you thinking about?
Just people haven't experienced what I did.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, Rekful, listen carefully now. Your depression, you're trying to cure the depression that is growing within kids out there today. You're trying to protect them from what happened to you.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
That feels good.
Yeah.
It feels meaningful, yeah.
I need to give you VIP.
Good is an understatement. It's the understatement of the fucking year.
I need to get rid of a VIP, though.
It is vital. It is crucial. You must do this thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started streaming about 2.5 months ago. And, you know, was advised against doing that by a lot of people in, like, many of my colleagues and stuff like that, because, I can get sued and all that good stuff, and talk to attorneys and things like that. So hopefully I don't get sued, because I'm not really delivering medical care. But, you know, what happens if someone comes on stream and then kills themselves or something like that? I mean, I think at the end...
I'll try not to kill myself anytime soon for you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm serious. I think that's
important. Yeah, no problem. I haven't thought about killing myself since psilocybin, I think.
Yeah. I believe that. If you do happen to have those thoughts again, feel free to reach out. You have my Discord.
APA commentary on ethics and practice.
Here we go.
The ethical and professional basis of the physician-patient relationship. The physician-patient relationship is a collaborative endeavor between two autonomous individuals who establish the professional relationship for the benefit of the patient. Every effort should be made to have the relationship begin by mutual consent. Psychiatrists should be cautious in interactions with persons who are not, or not yet, patients to avoid rendering input, advice, or other suggestions that might lead to the assumption or expectation that a treatment relationship has begun.
I believe that...
Damn, MrGirl has just fucking dropped a nuke at the start of the video. That is a fucking smoking gun if ever I saw one. Holy shit. Well, he's fucked from the perspective of this video calling him out. The consequences of what will happen is largely out of hands of the content. But that is, to me, explicit. I don't know how you can watch that and read that and not just come to the conclusion that he has made an ethical breach. How can you? How the fuck can you watch that and not read that and go, oh yeah, that is an explicit ethical breach? Explain it to me. Make it make sense. If you think that.
That kind of relationship starts off right in the beginning with...
Here's the thing, right? Even if you don't understand, even if you're too fucking brain dead to understand why it's bad, it's irrelevant. Because medical ethics don't work on what some random idiot on Twitch thinks about it, okay? Medical ethics are medical ethics. And they've been put together years of collaboration, discussion, investigation to figure out what is the best, most ethical way to deal with whatever the issue at hand is from a medical perspective, okay? So whether you think it's bad or not is irrelevant. There's an explicit breach that's occurred there of medical ethics. And if you don't see that, you're an idiot. I don't know what else to tell you, okay? Exactly. The net positive argument doesn't work with medicine, okay? When it comes to medical care, doctors have a certain a certain ethical framework that they follow, okay? In order to make sure that they engage in behavior. Because the thing is, if you look at it from the perspective of most good done, there are lots of really unethical things. So, for example, right, how do I put this in a way that isn't like, doesn't come across like I'm trying to call Dr. K something worse than what he is? Harvesting organs is a great example of this, right? The reason you need to have ethical frameworks in healthcare is because if you don't, you could potentially justify the harvesting of organs from healthy people on the basis that it does more good, right? That's it. That's the example, okay? Another example you could use, let's think about this, right? What if you could, like, torture a person and it would bring about the cure for cancer? Should we be able to do that? If there was like a level of torture you could engage in of 100 people, but it would bring about the cure for cancer, is that acceptable? You got a woman in a cage. You might think it's acceptable from your own perspective, but obviously we need to set standards of medical ethics so that doctors are prevented from doing that sort of thing. Yeah? But no, you don't understand. You might think that's a good thing and that's fine, but we can't have doctors engaging in a free-for-all of acting in behaviour that might be for the betterment of everyone if it means a small group of people are brought to harm. Because fuck me. Okay, listen, I'm going to make a separate point here, okay? But the thing, okay, you're treating this with your own ethical framework. Your own ethical framework is totally fucking irrelevant when you're looking at medical ethics, okay? It's totally irrelevant. It's totally fucking irrelevant, okay? It's totally irrelevant. It doesn't matter what your ethical framework is. There has to be a standard of ethics in medicine in order to prevent... Okay, here's an example, right? Nazi experimentation in death camps, okay? Nazi experimentation in death camps did actually lead to some discoveries that are used in the modern day. Does that mean that we should experiment on people? If we experiment on people and cause them great harm, we could discover medical discoveries that would better mankind as a whole. But we don't do it because we've got an ethical standard of we're not going to cause harm to a group of people, even if it means the outcome is we end up with like better healthcare for everyone.
You are correct.
Thank you, Pans.
Research,
Pans, it's good to see you, mate. This is the person I spoke to the other day. Thank you.
Just because there are anticipated benefits.
Pans works and deals in ethics for research, for medical research, okay? I think they've got a bit more of an idea than some random Twitch chatter who's watched a few Debate Bro streams and thinks they know all about ethical frameworks and systems, okay? Your view on it is irrelevant when we're looking at medicine. We have to have a different standard that we look at in order to prevent doctors from doing crazy shit just because it might bring about the betterment of mankind, okay? You're a fucking idiot if you disagree with me.
It is the job of the therapist to be crystal clear and to have their boundaries established. And the one thing that is paramount with therapists and professionals is to do no harm. Many people come in and they are not clear on boundaries. They're not clear on maybe exactly what they need, and that needs to be worked out in the process. If you provide confusion to the client, then you are causing harm. There is a problem with using therapy skills outside of the therapeutic process.
First, do no harm. Right? The Hippocratic Oath, which is something which is still used to this day. First, do no harm. Which, yeah, I think it's elaborated a bit further in more recent, modern versions. But the basic point or premise there, like, this is like the fundamental medical concept of ethics. Do you see what I mean? And it fuels a lot of the modern ethical frameworks that people use. Because a doctor is in a very unique position where they could engage in action that causes harm, and doctors have done so in the past. I don't need to list them, do I? The bad doctors.
And you do not want to go into those areas outside of the therapeutic process, or once again, you can do harm. It's a little bit, the medical equivalent would be to provide some kind of a service, a medication, or even a procedure without the beginning and the end and the ability to follow up, and that can cause damage.
The two biggest things I can think of are, number one, it can set up a dynamic where the client feels obligated to take care of the therapist, not unlike an unwell parent obligating a child to take care of them. And I think most people can agree that a parent who obligates their kid to take care of them it's bad parenting, right? And when we blur those lines, it can set up a dynamic where the person
also, wait, sorry, someone said about do no harm, and then talking about how someone was paralyzed or something. Yeah, like, do you know what medical malpractice is? If you operate on someone and you engage in behavior that causes, like, you let's say you operate on someone and you make a mistake and they end up paralyzed, the doctor is potentially fucking liable for that. Like, there's cases of medical malpractice and stuff like that where, like, doctors get taken to court. So, like, yes, of course, there are instances where doctors engage in, like, and as I say, that's like kind of the original text. There's been like extrapolations on that. Like, for example, I think with like surgeons, obviously surgeons can't do harm to do good, right? But then there's like a certain frameworks they would have to follow, presumably. And if they do something incorrectly and that fucks up someone's fucking legs, then yeah, obviously they could have some liability potentially. You know?
Help is in turn helping the person who they've charged with or
oh, was it? Okay,
actually
my
paying
bad.
for to help.
You're agreeing
them.
with me.
And
that's good.
It eventually becomes an abuse of power. You have the degrees, you have the titles after your name, and you're acting in role as a therapist. And a lot of people are really confused by titles anyway. And so you're still doing therapy with that person. Just by saying you're not doing therapy doesn't mean you're not doing therapy. People are still going to listen to you. You know, people often will come to me and ask my opinion on something from a therapist point of view. And when that happens, I have to be really careful to say, you know, I haven't to not comment on things that I don't know anything about. Because I could potentially be doing harm to that person or whoever. I don't know what they're going to do with that information. I'm thinking about one instance where a young woman shared some things with me while I was on an airport shuttle bus. And she kind of just opened up and spilled about a bunch of things that she was going through. And I do think as therapists, sometimes people come to us with things. My response was much more to encourage her to go seek therapy, partially to respect that boundary that we're talking about, which is in a gentle way saying, well, this isn't therapy. Kind of saying, you know, have you looked into getting a therapist? You should, you know, that might be something you should find somebody to work through or talk through. So it was very clear that I was not that. And part of the boundary that was set was to refer her to therapy. If I start to notice that person is having like an emotional reaction to what's being said, so they might start crying, they might start seeing like kind of almost like dissociating or escalating in any way, I would probably at that point, you know, just gently kind of ask them about, you know, who they have that they can talk to about it. Do you have a therapist? You might, you know, do you have?
Sorry, is that bothering you? Oh dear, bit of OCD on in chat. Yeah, this is like a really relevant point, I think, because if you look at like Dr. K, even from like a layman's perspective, you look at the way that Dr. K handled Recful and the fact that like, and other people as well, when they like broke down, and it was like nothing. No worries. It's all good. It was like nothing. It was like no response to it. No, like even on like a human level, like to not sort of recognize and just kind of like, it's like keep the camera rolling, you know? It kind of reminds me of when you got someone that's like distraught and the news crew is just filming them, zooming in slowly on their face. It's like, Jesus.
Have a family friend or family members that you can talk to about this sort of a thing. So there would be a redirection. Specifically, if I started to see the person become emotionally activated by it, that would indicate to me that the conversation is having some sort of an effect on their emotional and psychological well-being. In which case, I don't want to inadvertently cause harm by continuing to either have the conversation or ask additional questions or probing questions. So that would be where I would probably be where I would cut it off.
So like I woke up one day and I said, I'm going to start talking to gamers over the internet. And my lawyer said you could get sued because someone is going to think that this is therapy and you don't have a doctor-patient relationship. And one day someone is going to kill themselves and their family is going to sue you because you were pretending to be a doctor.
Holy shit. Jesus.
They said that this would be easier if you actually weren't a medical professional because you have a license and you have obligations. But if I don't do it, who is? Right?
Yeah.
Like it's Friday. on November 15th, 4:23
Jesus.
in Eastern time, and like you're stuck. If I don't talk to you right now, Joro, who's going to talk to you? Like, it's me. That's it. So
the justification of it, the self-justification, the like, you know, you can provide resources to... How does anyone access medical health care? Jesus Christ. Like, you have resources, like, you know... Don't forget, Healthy Gamer was set up as a for-profit business. Like, the idea that he's doing it for some sort of like, well, I'm helping everyone out. It's a for-profit business that he set up. And he is the co-founder of it. He is raking in money off of all of the stuff that comes with it. The appointments, the ad revenue, all of it. So this presentation, this is why... I'm so fucking... I think it's so important to highlight the content-driven nature of all of this stuff, because that is fundamentally what he's doing. If he was that interested in helping, he could do all of this in the right way. If he determines they actually need it, he could give them real therapy pro bono, setting the proper ethical framework with the patient before proceeding. True.
So I think I know that what I do looks and feels like therapy to some people, probably overlaps at some, but I don't think that that's, I think the real thing that, you know, and that's because you guys just haven't seen me do therapy. Like, if you saw me do therapy, you'd understand the difference. And people who have come into my office before understand the difference. There's a longitudinal relationship. There are usually diagnoses involved. There are treatments involved. I don't treat anything. I don't diagnose anything. And some people may feel like that's a technicality, like I'm skirting that, but really it's not.
So is the majority of what you're doing still direct one-on-one type of therapy, basically, and then using that as an example for how other people can follow it? Or are you doing more?
Yes.
All of these people, like, look, all of these people, they need to fucking say something. Listen, I'm sorry. Look, I ain't one to normally fucking say. I think that there's at least some obligation if you've given a positive interview with this guy. I think there's some sort of, like, Devin Nash, like, whoever, like, yeah, I think you ought to come out and sort of say, hey, look, this video's come out, like, it seems like there's some issues here or something. I don't know. You know, the fact that he used all of these people to boost his image when he was growing.
So I think so. First of all, to be clear, it's not therapy, and I can't dispense medical advice over the internet.
Yeah.
But so I think what I do is just talk to people. So, well, just to be clear, this is not therapy.
Sure.
Right. We're just chatting.
And you notice there's no challenging of him. Like, no one's fucking pushing back or challenging him in any way, and get, like, maybe in other examples. But no one's sort of like, well, maybe they're not equipped to. Jesus.
This is just chatting on Twitch.
Yes, this is just chatting. It's not therapy.
So
wait, was this before or after all of the stuff came out with Sky Williams? And anyway, that's another meme. But, like, yeah, clearly he's saying here, like, oh yeah, inverted commas, just chatting. I think someone like Destiny's going to do the right thing. I think Destiny will watch this video on stream and offer critique. I think. I hope he at least walks back his position of, oh, he's doing more good than harm. I think he needs to kind of think about that a bit, because, like, yeah. But I think I think Destiny is the kind of person that would do the right thing on this. I doubt that Destiny is going to come out and defend Dr. K after all of this. I can't imagine he'd do that, surely. He will watch it on stream while playing League with Moody, maybe.
It's not therapy, and you understand that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what you mean by depression.
Listen, I debate Destiny on Dr. K fucking till the cows come home. That's an easy dub for me. So yeah, no problem.
Or anxiety.
Depending on what his position is, obviously. But if he's gonna try and come in and argue about him doing more good than harm and all this shit, yeah, I'll fucking debate Destiny all day long on that. Fucking easy dub.
I overheard him talking to his friend. I don't know, I was like 12. That he told his friend that he wanted to kill himself. It was weird to hear my dad say that. Yeah.
Reckful, do you have a therapist?
I've gone to therapy a few times, but I've never saw it as useful enough to keep going. This time I do. Well, okay, this is not therapy, but you know what I mean. But I,
Oh, come on, fucking hell.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So, okay, so look, man. So this is what we got to do. So I think this is way.
And here's the thing as well. What makes something therapy or not therapy? Like, what role does one's perception in what is happening play in all of this too? Do you see what I mean? And if the way that you're engaging with someone, like, listen, let me put it to you like this, right? If you came onto my stream and I had a conversation with you about a game that you're making, right? And that was all we talked about. Do you think anyone would be able to argue that that was some form of therapy? Well, no, obviously not, because we're just talking about a fucking game you're making. But if you come on and I present myself as a doctor and I start probing into your mental health, I don't think it would be unreasonable to come to the conclusion that some sort of therapy has been engaged in. Yeah, it's literally him saying it's not therapy.
Way more longitudinal, so there's something. This is way more longitudinal, right? So I think we have to we got to figure something out. So either you need to talk to someone about this because you understand things that you didn't understand before, or like I can't do one-offs. Like we can do one-offs about meditation and random shit, but if you really want to get into this, if you want to get into loneliness, we got to do it like in sequence. Like we got to do it sequentially. Like we got to do it.
I'm fine with that.
We got to like do it. Get started. Yeah. So let me just think about that. It doesn't have to be online. But if you want to do it online, that's fine. But then I think we have to do it consistently. And
how consistently?
I would say probably every week for like 4 to 8 weeks.
That's not that long.
I mean, it's not that long, but it's.
I'm willing to do that if
okay.
You are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to do it because I think, let me just think about it. Let's figure out how to do this. You just sleep on it, and then you let me know like tomorrow or like whenever you want to let me know. Okay. So I'll message you. We'll figure it out. Let's do like maybe January 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, like sometime in like the second week of January. Okay. And then we'll do like
I gotta survive a long time on my own. I got this. I could do it.
Yeah, I mean, you can I can talk to you in between that. I just won't be streaming.
Yeah, I got it. I'll make it.
You can just message me, dude. Just message me. Okay. All right. Strong work, Wreckful.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. This reminds me, I wanted to share with you because I thought of this. My dad wrote a book. He actually wrote several. But in the book, he had a fictional character who was based on himself. Had a different profession, but the same backstory with my brother who, his kid who committed suicide. And then he wrote the actual experience of what it felt like for him when my brother committed suicide. And I wanted to read it to you.
Sure.
Thought maybe. Yeah.
Please.
And when I was 16, I actually edited the book for my dad. So I read it all the way through back then.
Huh.
Because he didn't get an editor. I wasn't very good at editing. I can actually do it much better now. While I'm reading it, I would want to change some words around. Anyway.
Just read it.
My son had been suffering from a severe depression for several months, and I did sometimes fear the worst. So when my wife called me...
Let me just break something down for you, okay? Because I've been fucking sick of this, and I'm glad. I'm glad that we've got this video now, and we're looking at this starkly. The amount of people that have disgracefully hidden behind the emotions around Wreckful is fucking disgusting, okay? The kinds of people who will go, how dare you talk about this? How dare you say something? You're gross for bringing it up. What about what this piece of shit did? What about what Dr. K did? Brought someone on stream that was clearly in a bad place, was mentally ill, and milked them for every fucking piece of content that they could. Where's the criticism for Dr. K for doing that? Oh no, I'm a bad person for bringing it up later to point out how he's shit in some areas, or MrGirl is, right? What about what Dr. K did? No, apparently that is not to be discussed or mentioned ever again. But talking about it, oh no, that's the thing that's bad. And this is true as well. I don't know if he's going to show it. Oh shit, I've got less than 20% battery. I need to charge my phone. I'll
at
show it
work
in a
on
sec.
that evening and said that his room was locked and he wouldn't respond to calling his name and knocking on the door, death immediately reared in my mind and my heart palpitated with a pang. I shouted, "My son is dead," and I started sobbing savagely and uncontrollably. My secretary drove me home. Someone climbed to the rear window of his room and broke it, then immediately screamed to call the paramedics. Leora, her name's really Judy. Judy ran to Guy's room, the secretary following on the steps. Judy came out of the room crying hysterically, her pain throbbing around me. The paramedics came and she re-entered the room with them, but they could only confirm Guy's death. My own darkness engulfed, sucked, and suffocated me. Inescapable misery constantly bashing.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there, but we're back.
To me some nights after many hours of twisting in my bed.
So what I get from you is a profound sense of sadness and loss. The thing that I don't understand is how much of that loss is for you, how much of that loss is for him, and how much of that loss is for your dad.
I feel bad for my dad.
Sure, I'll go back a bit.
In my heart, gashing wounds of unbearable pain. Memories of my son melt in my brain like butter and boiling vapor, driving me insane. And the worst was the impossibility, the absolute impossibility to run away and to vanish and disappear. There was nowhere to hide, except if blessed sleep came to me some nights after many hours of twisting in my bed.
So what I get from you is a profound sense of sadness and loss. The thing that I don't understand is how much of that loss is for you, how much of that loss is for him, and how much of that loss is for your dad.
I feel bad for my dad for sure. But I don't know. I don't know.
So, Reckful, I have a crazy-ass non-sequitur question for you, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to have children one day?
I always thought no, because I was scared they'd kill themselves.
Yeah.
Informed consent. Psychiatrists should recognize the importance of informed consent for assessment or treatment as an essential means to recognition of and respect for the patient's autonomy and personhood.
Informed consent is a complicated process that, once again, we have to rely on professionals to understand. When a situation is blurry, it by itself makes sure that the client is not crystal clear and they don't know where the process and the conversation or the relationship is going. And so how can they agree to something where they don't know what is happening and what's going on? So the therapist needs to be the one that says, here's where we're going to go, this is how we're going to go, and this is what we're going to do. Is that okay with you? And if so, I need your informed consent. Informed is a very important part of consent that they
MrGirl, this video is fantastic. And the reason is MrGirl isn't in it. That sounds mean. The reason it's so good is because MrGirl isn't in it. And what I mean by that is he isn't the focus of this. He's just reading portions of like that he needs to. But he's letting Dr. K, you know, he's giving Dr. K enough rope. And also he's letting the professionals talk at length about it. So that is a great move on the behalf of MrGirl there.
Clearly understand the process. Otherwise, once again, we're back to you may be doing harm. It is a tendency for all professionals to, for example, take a celebrity or take a politician and want to use diagnostic terms, but that is unethical, and you should never use diagnostic labels with people that is outside of the therapy process. A professional needs to understand that if a individual hears someone that they respect as a professional and identify them as a professional, and they start using diagnostic terms or even characteristics or criteria, then that is going to stick with the person, and it could, again, cause damage and without any ability to follow up on that. I think it's the job, once again, of the professional to avoid that conversation entirely. Because a client could say, or an individual could say, I wonder what he even thought about that issue. Gee, bipolar or narcissistic or characterological disorder. I mean, why did that even come up in his mind? Gee, I might have some kind of symptoms of that. So it is our job to avoid that entirely.
It's good to make a video about this and why these rules are in place. I think it would also be important to say that there are some exceptions to these things, because I don't want people to get their takeaway to be that, well, these rules really are rigid, because they're not. And even things like certain dual relationships may not be rigid. And the point here with Dr. K that I think you would want to make is not that just that the rules weren't followed rigidly, it's that these weren't tolerable exceptions. That these aren't just dual relationships, but these are dual relationships that are not in the best interest of the patient. For doing 6 sessions on stream plus whatever amount off stream, if you're gonna after all of that not be clear or what your doctor-patient relationship is, that's pretty murky. By episode 6, it's being called therapy.
Politics is bringing the
quotation marks. You want to have it clear before then. You're at the point where you think someone might have a psychiatric condition that needs care or needs treatment. There's a fork in the road. You either are going to go all in and say, okay, well, I am your therapist, I am your psychiatrist, you are my patient, and we're going to establish a doctor-patient relationship, and we're going to treat your conditions or work you up for what you have. Or you refer the patient to someone who will do that. You don't want to delay care by continuously evaluating whether you're going to be friends, or streamers, doctor-patient. If you think the patient has something that needs attention, make the decision and go with it.
A blurry relationship, every interaction, well, I would imagine that every interaction the person wouldn't be able to tell if is this a conversation with a friend or is it a conversation with a therapist? So if you think about informed consent I am agreeing to treatment. I'm agreeing that we're going to be talking about things. I'm allowing you to intervene on me in whatever modality that therapist has. If you have blurry lines and the patient doesn't know when you are doing things to them, right? So they don't know, is this just kind of anecdotal information? Is this just this person being my friend, or are they actually kind of operating on me? And in that regard, if you have a blurry relationship, the person can't actually know kind of what's what. If you're acting in the role, not in the role of in the therapist-patient relationship, you can't diagnose somebody because you're not acting in an impartial, unbiased manner towards them. So if I take somebody on as a patient, I take their history, I take a history, I might do some psychological evaluations to differentiate between different diagnoses that are going on. If they're not my patient, I can't do any of that. another piece to it is that when we diagnose somebody, I mean, having the degrees, whether it's a psychiatrist or a licensed mental health person, diagnosing somebody carries a lot of weight to it, right? So insurance companies base a lot on diagnoses. There's certain diagnoses that are very stigmatizing for people. To just go around diagnosing people that aren't your client is potentially extraordinarily harmful to those people.
I'm going to talk to you about something called borderline personality disorder. I don't think you have this, by the way.
Oh my
God.
Not really?
To diagnose
Okay. A lot of people think I do have that.
Maybe you do. I don't know. So I don't have enough diagnostic.
I don't know.
This is like okay.
So I'm going to just talk a little bit about borderline personality disorder because I think that there's some features of it which are relevant.
Yeah.
And also like some very interesting data that some people don't know. So the first is that borderline personality disorder, a lot of times these people have a fear of abandonment. Okay. And so they do get overly clingy. And as they get overly clingy, they sort of like force people away. And then it kind of like reinforces their fear that like they're unlovable.
Yeah.
And then that sort of, and each round makes it worse because once you do it to the first person, your sense of being unlovable increases. And then when you interact with the next human being, like that wolf has become hungrier. And so when they sort of treat you well, they feel really good about themselves. And when the person starts to like kind of slip away, it gets like stronger and stronger.
I tell you what, listen, I'm sorry. People are fucking stupid, okay? Like, Mr. Gomini can't just choose to not have personal commentary in his video, but to me that ends up making the whole thing a bit dry. Like, what is it people are expecting? This is a video that is calling out someone for extremely egregious behavior, and you want a laugh track in there or something. What is wrong with people? That's all I'm saying. You know, well, not all of it, but a lot of the comments are, oh, it's fucking a bit boring, there's not any entertainment in there. This is serious shit. Like, you know, it can't all be a fucking laugh. When I made my Dr. K video, you know, I specifically made it so that it wasn't a laugh a minute. You know, I wanted it to be more serious, you know, and this is far better than my video, of course. This is, you know, a lot more work's gone into this. Mine was like 10 hours of research to do a manifesto that I talked about a bit. But also my stuff was more straightforward. You know, it's like, hey, he said this isn't backed by the data science, there we go. Whereas this is actually, you have to explain to people why what he's done is so wrong. Do you see what I mean? You know, you've got to break it down for people because they don't get it. They don't get it because people have watched this content and defended it. So clearly they don't fucking get it. So yeah, he's got to spoon feed some people, you know?
Stronger and stronger. And each round is like becomes, as you put it, a self-fulfilling prophecy and makes it harder.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what many people don't know about BPD is that BPD, there's actually some very interesting data. So a lot of people think of BPD as being incurable.
Right, here we go. Now we're getting into it. Some interesting data. Yeah, I've seen your interpretation of data and what data is to you, Dr. K, but let's see.
But there's some really fascinating data that if you can get in a stable relationship for 2 years and have someone not abandon you, then there's a 50% chance your BPD will like actually go away. So it's really fascinating. And I think
it's the opposite of you shouldn't get in a relationship until you're stable on your own.
Yeah, and I think that's what you need. You need someone in your life who's not going to turn away for a period of at least 2 years, and you may be terrified that they'll turn away at 2.5.
Right. I might never get it. I mean, there's no guarantee I will, but I'll look for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So sure, there is.
I would not say so.
There's only one way.
I've gotten in some really unhealthy situations because I'm so desperate for human interaction that I'll have, you know, paid people's rent just so they'd be my roommate. So I'd have someone around,
Jesus.
You know. Done it a few times. Just a lot of dumb things like that, or try to get them to quit their jobs and like give them a new job that requires less time so I could have a friend. And then obviously I've realized that these things are unhealthy, but I was just in desperate situations where I needed human interaction.
So, Reckful, I'm confident in... Okay. I'm confident that there's going to be someone around in your life who will be there for you most of the time when you need them, hopefully, for at least a period of 2 years.
Okay.
How can I be confident in that?
How can you be confident?
Yeah.
Well, you find me stimulating to talk to, and I'm not demanding too much of your time or spamming you with walls of text. And even if I were, you'd feel inclined to answer me because it's you love helping people. it's your passion. So from your perspective, maybe you can feel confident, but then if you put yourself in the shoes of any other human being, I don't know that they'll really spend 2 years with me unless there's...
So Reckful, I'm not counting on them to spend 2 years with you.
What are you counting on?
I'm counting on myself.
That you'll spend 2 years with me. Yeah, that I believe. That I can believe.
So I can't trust any of them.
True.
So I'm going to try
to
love you.
It's nice having someone to come to every week like this.
I'm going to try to love you for 2 years. At a minimum.
I really appreciate it.
So
this is making just chilling.
The other thing is that I do helping people, but I also like helping you. And I want you to understand this, Reckful. I'm not even helping you. Like, this isn't help. I don't like the phrase help. Help implies like charity, right? It implies that you have something and that you have nothing and I have something and I'm like helping you. I'm not helping you. This is just me being human and you being human. I don't know if that makes any sense. I think it's one.
Do you see now why so many of Dr. K's simps were saying, "Oh no, don't talk about the Reckful stuff. Don't talk about the Reckful stuff. That's bad. You're digging up the past. You're talking about someone's suicide. Da 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 da." It's because they didn't want you to see this shit. They didn't want you to engage with the content, and they didn't want people to fucking realize how egregious this was. For some of them, at least, maybe not everyone. But Jesus Christ, this is damning.
One of the hardest concepts.
What do you mean by human?
What is it? I'm sorry, right? It doesn't matter if he walked it back, okay? He said it. You can't put the fucking toothpaste back in the tube. Like, if you say something like that, it has an impact that you can't rescind by taking it back.
It's just like, we're just being us, man. It's not something fancy.
You're doing what you enjoy.
It's not about enjoy. It's I'm being who I am and you are being who you are. And that's the most that we can expect of ourselves.
I want to update the viewers on what happened off stream because they missed one therapy session that isn't therapy.
It's not therapy, right? So yeah, that's actually what we talked about, right? So
I don't know. Don't you think Reckful would have been even lonelier without having Dr. K to talk to? I mean, just because he had someone to talk to doesn't mean that that was good for him, right?
So I think my impression was we were talking about clarifying what our relationship is.
Yeah.
And whether this is therapy or this isn't therapy. And what our options are in terms of how to form a relationship. And I think that, you know, the last time we talked on stream, we had a conversation about abandonment. And then I made a very bold claim because I got emotional as well. And I felt like I wanted to be there for you so that you no longer felt this way. And I think sometimes what happens amongst people is that they have different kinds of complexes, and I have them too. And one of the things that happens with me is when I see someone hurting, I want to make them better. And sometimes I will, in that moment, say whatever I think I can to make them feel better, but sometimes that's irresponsible. And I'm not, I mean, I think in a sense it was...
Let's just call it has Fuck you. Fuck you. I ain't calling shit, you fucking bitch. I ain't calling nothing on this. Are you fucking kidding me? All of the simps that fucking, when I first started talking about this, and I even wasn't talking about this, talking about the pseudoscience stuff, were in my chat telling me I was wrong, telling me I was wrong, telling me I was wrong. I was right. MrGirl was right. You were wrong, and you've got the fucking nerve to come into my chat and tell me to call it. Fuck you, you piece of fucking shit.
It was irresponsible, but I think from our perspective, we're trying to understand, you know, like, what is this for you? What is this for me? What are we doing on Twitch? This is like kind of a new thing. And I think a common perception is that if you're talking about feelings with someone, then that is therapy. But I think we can kind of say, like, so Rekful also shared with me that he had a great conversation for several hours with Pokimane. Am I saying that right now? Right? Where he also talked about feelings and things like that. But I don't think that I don't think that Pokimane is your therapist. I don't think I'm your therapist. I think you can talk to another human being about feelings, and you can explore things that are authentic and important to yourself, and that doesn't necessarily make you a therapist. And so we were also talking about the other options in terms of, like, what are we? Are we like colleagues, like that stream on Twitch together? We'd sort of talked a little bit about, you know, things like viewership and stuff like that. I raised some concerns about favoritism. So I want to try to treat people equally. And I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that if one person is coming on stream over and over again, are we doing a disservice to other people?
Which I think you are. So I think I shouldn't come on stream over and over again with you every week.
Yeah. So I think, and so I think that too, for me, feels like it's closer to a doctor-patient relationship, which I think becomes really complicated if you're kind of working with someone week after week, you know? And I think the other thing that we expressed is that, like, so I want to be Rekful's friend, right? So, but if I'm your friend, then can I be your doctor? Do I want to be your doctor? Do I want to be your friend? And I think the reason that this kind of relates to Rekful is because I think Rekful I think he's a very...
Also, like, look at Rekful. Like, Rekful's in a fucking bad place. And he's getting dragged out in front of the camera to do this. Like, this is disgraceful. This is fucking disgraceful. Like, he looks crushed. He looks crushed. How is he getting dragged out? What do you mean? Dr. K is making another video with him. Listen, Solin, you fucking retard, okay? How fucking dare you come in here and saying, oh, he does it every day. There's a difference between streaming, okay? There's a difference between fucking streaming and being a streamer and making content and this, which is fucking apparently not therapy, but it is therapy, dragged out to an audience to do this, okay? How fucking dare you come in here and be like, oh, but he does this every day, and try and equivocate streaming versus what this is.
Warm, open, and caring person, and also tangles up his relationships with people. And it's something that I actually do too. So I tend to tangle up relationships with people. I tend to not see things in terms of black and white. And that's the reason I started.
Clean stuff.
Sure. That's part of the reason I started streaming anyway, because like no one talks about feeling, like, you know, no therapist or psychiatrist has come live on stream to like talk to people about mental health or their feelings. Or maybe it does happen and I just haven't heard of it. But I think that's a little bit unorthodox.
Yes, I was crying.
I said my piece.
He was saying
This
that he
is
wanted to be
fucking
there
rough.
for me for
It's
the next 2
extremely
years, and that
unethical.
but the
It's
problem
hard
is
to
that
watch.
he kind of said it in a flurry of.
Solin, all his streams are treating chat as therapy. Fuck you if you weren't there for it. Stop trying to weaponize Rekful's story. Me, I'm in the wrong here. No, Dr. K is in the fucking wrong. What about what Dr. K has done with Rekful? Dredged him out for his sake of his content again and again and again, when clearly he wasn't fucking well. When clearly he needed someone to actually come along and deal with him in the appropriate fashion. And I'm the bad person in all this. Nah, fuck you. I'm not doing anything wrong by watching this and pointing out the fucked up shit that's going on, okay? Fuck off. Fuck you. I'm not even going to bother engaging with you fucking disgusting, despicable Dr. K fucking cocksucker, retarded idiots anymore. You're just getting fucking banned. Fuck you, you fucking idiot.
Emotion? I don't know if flirty is a good word. While streaming, he was getting emotional himself. He wanted to be there for me. So he said it, but he hadn't actually thought it through and what that entails. Because he is not a licensed therapist in Texas and just a lot of things, you know, because you'd have to live in Texas to be my therapist in Texas. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So we also did talk about, you know, whether you want me to be your actual therapist and what that would entail. And the other thing is that bit of research, which is important to remember, is the research on people on BPD. It's 2 years of someone.
Okay, listen, I won't say it anymore. I've got it out of my system now. Okay, I apologize. That was wrong with me. That's a bad word and I shouldn't use it. My apologies. But sometimes people are just retarded. What are you going to do?
Who's actually a romantic partner. So it's unclear whether a friend.
So yeah, I need to get in a relationship with a girl for 2 years and have it actually work out. And that might cure my BPD with.
Yeah, and so this is what we also kind of talked about. I don't know if you remember, but like you know, it's not about curing and the relationship working out. It's about developing.
I have trouble not thinking in these terms. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So exactly. So that's what we need to change, right? So you think about things in terms of working out or not working out. I think we had talked about. So what's going to happen as you enter relationships is that there are going to be stressful parts and not stressful parts, and if there's a stressful part where your samskar of abandonment gets triggered, then you may act in a different kind of way. And we can talk about that. Like, I'm curious about, you know, your prior relationships and things like that. And as that samskar activates, it causes you to do things that you normally wouldn't do. And those are kind of driven by that fear of abandonment.
Unprocessed trauma.
Unprocessed trauma. Great way to put it. Right? So some of the trauma of losing your brother, one brother and then another brother, like you're terrified that like you'll lose someone else. And so you try to.
My other brother's still alive. He just means he's not around.
Yeah. And so I think what we need to help you do is like use meditation or psilocybin or however you want to, but to gain perspective on those moments and essentially ride out those emotions so that you can like not do something that negatively impacts the relationship. So we need to help.
Now, my mind is stuck on certain things right now.
Yeah. Tell me.
So I'm stuck on. I like to get these things solved, I guess.
That's a good meme, Exotic, but now is not the time for me to laugh at.
I don't like to be in the tension so much.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm in the tension of, is he going to be my therapist or are we going to be friends? Because he said if he's my therapist, we can never travel together anywhere. Like, it changes how it is. So I was thinking it'd be cool to go to Japan with Dr. K. You know, that sounds nice. Yeah, that would feel nice.
Yeah.
Just see how he experiences things and have fun. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think it's good.
Actually, I really want a friend, but you know, then I'm thinking longer term. I'll have friends. So what I need is a therapist, maybe.
Yeah, so I think rather than resolve that issue, Reckful, I think the important thing is that you said something really, really beautiful, right? Which is that you do not like the tension.
It's a big problem in my life, yeah. I don't like the tension. Every time I'm around a girl, I like to just have it resolved right away that, okay, this is not going to be anything romantic for sure, or it might. Like, I just want to get it out of the way.
Is it okay if we talk about that?
Confidentiality. Medical confidentiality is the physician's obligation to his or her patient not to reveal the patient's personal or health information without that patient's explicit, informed permission.
First of all, waiving confidentiality is called privilege, and the individual can waive confidentiality in certain situations. It is the responsibility of the therapist to make sure, back to something like informed consent, that they are waiving that privilege, waiving that confidentiality
Who is this person?
in an appropriate way that will not come back to harm them. An example of that is in my setting when I work with children. The children often want their name in the paper. They want their picture in on the evening news. And of course, they're not in a position to be able to make that decision. There are some adult clients that will waive confidentiality, but the therapist should know that that is not going to be in their best interest.
People with, I would say, high risk patients, so people who either have attempted suicide in the past or have a history of suicide in their family, which makes them at a higher risk of suicide. I would say people who have a trauma history, sexual abuse survivors, physical abuse survivors, because the nature of, in those, particularly sexual abuse, the nature of sexual abuse is exploitative, right? And so then you're reenacting that trauma, right? And when you put them into a situation where people are watching them, and I mean, essentially, we don't know what all the viewers are doing with that information. So you're setting them up to be exploited, let alone whatever gain the therapist is getting out of doing that, which is considered to be exploitative also. What happens after the therapy session? What happens if that person who is high risk for suicide regrets what they said and there isn't a therapist around to support them anymore? That is absolutely a setup for them to engage in some sort of self-harm or potentially even attempt suicide.
I think I'm okay with like explaining scenarios and like circumstances and how I feel and stuff, but I don't want to like name people.
Okay.
That's the only thing.
Okay. I completely understand and respect that.
Yeah.
But I want to I think it's important, if it's okay with you, for us to also talk about what makes you uncomfortable naming people. Not that you have to name the people, but can we explore the feeling of hesitation about naming people?
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if it's actually fear that's keeping your mouth shut. I'm beginning to realize it's not fear. I think what you're trying to do is preserve and protect. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
There's Yvonne. Support player. Protecting. Taking it for the team. And boy, did you take it this time.
Jesus fuck.
Who are you protecting? I'm not asking you to name those people. I mean, in general, like, just to be clear.
I was like in my room, in my bed, and then he came in and he...
Do you guys live together?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does he get into your house?
Now
I think we've got to talk about like why I'm not.
What? Fucking hell.
Once again, I'm not trying to pressure you into speaking or anything like that, so please understand that. But I do think it's important, very important, for people to understand why you can talk about the general, and you yourself,
out for 8 hours.
Why you can talk about the generalities of the situation without naming names. And once again, you get to pull the plug at any point, Yvonne.
Okay.
And I may pull the plug if I think, I'm going to try to pull the plug for you if I think that you go into a catatonic space and you can't pull the plug yourself. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what is it that makes it hard for you to name names? How do we understand this more without compromising what your goals are, which I want to respect at all costs? Because the question that I want to ask is like, who do you love that you're trying to protect? But I think that that's the question that you don't want to answer.
So listen, I want to say one thing. I think it's quite clear. This video is not about MrGirl. Anyone that talks about MrGirl in the context of this video is demonstrating they haven't seen it even, right? Because clearly it's clear what's going on here. MrGirl has taken a step back from being front and center of this content in order to make the strongest possible point that he can. So, if you've got a problem with MrGirl, that's fine. I get it, right? Whatever.
I can't count the number of times I've had a friendly conversation with someone and had to pull the plug because I've placed them in a catatonic state.
Thank you very much for the bits. Appreciate it. See? You see what I mean? This is what they're going to do. They're going to try and go, oh, it's MrGirl, it's MrGirl, it's MrGirl, it's MrGirl. But it's irrelevant because, look, yes, it's on his channel, but the entirety of the content is not about MrGirl. It's about Dr. K. Chud, you can't seem to realise you're dead wrong, and that's okay. You need to increase your VATA and you'll be open to the truth. Okay, mate, I'll bear that in mind. Damn. I was expecting this video to be a sensationalized hit piece. MrGirl has pulled a fucking blinder here. Fucking hell. MrGirl has pulled an absolute blinder. Because the way that he's acted has made it seem like he's going to be a deranged lunatic just going hard in this video at him. But in fact, what he's done is he's taken a step back and just gone, hey, here's, you know, he's not even said it, but he's like playing clips of Dr. K, mentioning medical ethics and having other people speak. Fucking hell, what a blinder. What a fucking blinder.
So I can't ask that question. But I feel like that's the important question. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they want you to make that sacrifice? Do you think they would want you to be silent? Okay, so I think if you want to stay silent, then I think maybe we've done enough for today. What do you think?
Yeah.
Does that sound good to you? Okay. So one last question.
Mm-hmm.
And then I should teach you meditation, but boy, is it hard to teach meditation after this.
Yeah.
And then
so do you...
It's a streamer that I think talked about getting sexually assaulted or raped in this stream. And he's like just probing and talking about it and all sorts of shit.
Do you feel... So I know that you don't want to name names, fine. Do you feel comfortable saying who it is that you love and for whom you're choosing to stay silent? Or is that too much? Because I can't,
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the same people.
Oh.
Right.
Just think in general, there's like not a lot I want to say in regards to that.
Okay. Cool.
In cases where you are not paying a fee to receive the therapy, that could be in a lot of different settings, but in general, we would call that pro bono work. There's also that in the legal system and in another context as well. And when there isn't an exchange of money, sometimes the therapist is a little looser. And I think that is a concern that comes up. Generally, there are set requirements for a therapeutic process, and one of those is to have a fair exchange and cost to it, so that that's above board and everybody agrees. If that is not the case, some therapist might think, well, then it'll be okay for me to have some kind of gain in some other context, and then it becomes a very slippery slope. A therapy relationship needs to be focused on the needs of the client. And if the...
Pelland, has anybody thought that Dr. K might just be autistic? Maybe he isn't malicious. Listen, I'm trying to be serious, okay? Can we stop with the memes just for a little bit? Please, I'm begging you, chat.
If the situation switches to the needs of the therapist, you are stepping into unethical areas. And that is very concerning with things like promotional issues, being a part of advertising. That can go in many, many directions. And that's another slippery slope. Unless there's extenuating circumstances, such as like low income or in small communities or some indigenous native populations, First Nation populations, it would be okay. But generally, no, because there's a high risk for some sort of social or psychological harm that could happen. Generally speaking, it's not, if the person can afford therapy, it's not a good idea to barter. In fact, it's generally considered unethical if the person can otherwise afford therapy.
There's certainly components that Reckful seem to be benefiting from in that therapy. There's no question about it. There are certain components that are questionable in the dual relationship nature that Dr. K may have benefited from. So increasing in viewers, getting a whole bunch of hits, getting a whole bunch of donations. I even remember in some of the episodes that someone donated him 100 subs or something. There seems to be a type of business-esque relationship that's a dual relationship there, where, okay, well, yes, we're engaging in therapy. It's pro bono, quote unquote, therapy. But if assuming this is a doctor-patient relationship to be a therapy, then well, there's certain conflicts. There's money that's being gotten based on how many views there are. How many views there are is determined by how entertaining the therapy session is. This person, are we making headway? Are we making breakthroughs? Is the person crying? Are they breaking down? Those are the kind of aspects that are going to financially have a financial conflict of interest. Because what if making an entertaining therapy session is not in the best interest of the patient at that point in time? What if having them break down and cry or prodding may not be? Well, it's in the best interest of the patient, but it might not be as entertaining. Does that mean that Dr. K did it because he wanted the views? No, not necessarily. No, of course, I don't think that. In fact, I don't even believe that. But the point is that that's a conflict that is there, and you want systems that prevent those conflicts from being there, even if you're not acting upon them.
So I think your wife reached out to me saying, "Hey, you guys have free private sessions." Because I think people from your side, like not your wife, but like people on your team have sent me like 10 emails. I can show you the Twitter DMs. Not sure if you saw, but it's just like 10 requests for me to come on the show.
I really enjoyed talking to you, and if you want to talk more practically, if you ever want to talk again, just let us know.
Dr. K, I messaged him that day, and I asked him, "Hey, I'm going through a lot of things. I really appreciate your perspective. I'll pay. Could you let me know when you're free?" And he said, I was 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and he said, "Yeah, no, totally. Are you free today at 2 p.m.?" And I'm like, "Yes, that's in 3 hours." So he actually talked to me that day, and he's like, "You don't need to pay. This entire situation is about people taking advantage of others, and when you're like this, how could I accept payment from you? You know what I mean? It's the same shit." And he said that I won't accept money, but
I'll link the video.
Money, but for now, no.
3 ads. I'll stop. If there's ads, I will stop for ads. Automatic. If you cannot afford a sub etc, it is your way of contributing to the stream by watching ads. So I don't mind you asking for a sub etc, but excessive bitching normally results in a ban. I knew I'd fucking get that. He misspoke. Classic.
Welcome to Chud Nation.
Hey, Winter Madness. Thanks for the 5 gifted. That's very generous of you. Appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, normally, if someone let us bitch, it gets you more money. I don't mind a bit of bitching, but some people just complain too much, and it's annoying. Where's 12-year-old Android girl? I don't know. I think aren't they like a? They probably watch the video themselves if they're like a MrGirl fan. But yeah, I think we should be back from ads. Who are you talking to? Sometimes I get like a moment of like, I don't know what the right word is. When someone says, who are you talking to? Right? I'm like, I'm literally talking to no one. I'm sat here alone in my room, watching a video, talking into my computer screen. But you're all there. It's like this moment of like, oh shit, hang on a minute. Am I losing it? It is a bit weird, Ken Babe, yeah. It is a bit weird, to be honest. I do find it like a bit unusual. Back when I first started streaming, the feeling of like ending a stream and you were just there by yourself, having just spent like 8 hours talking, was weird. But now I'm just kind of used to it, really. Obviously, the more you do it, the more confident you get, the more used to the weird like idiosyncrasies or whatever they are. Anyway, we should be back from ads now, hopefully.
Wanted to talk
Let's
to
go
him,
back a bit.
And I'm like, yes, that's in 3 hours. So he actually talked to me that day.
Talk to Dr. K about
said,
it.
You don't need to pay.
Listen, I would talk to Dr. K, but I don't want to kill myself, okay?
This entire situation is about people taking advantage of others. And when you're like this, how could I accept payment from you? You know what I mean? Like, it's the same shit. And he said that I won't accept money, but yeah, in the future I'll take your money. But like, for now, no. Like, he said he wanted to talk to me human to human.
It turns out that Lily Pichu awesomely gave us like $3,000. So she has single-handedly like funded, you know, just a gigantic amount of stuff and has gotten our first few milestones met. So a huge thank you to Lily. Yeah, and good luck. And you know, if you want to, I'm sorry, I didn't have the mana. I'm out of mana at this point. I didn't have the mana to really have that. Yeah, I'd have that second conversation. But if
I love the fact he talks about mana, right? I love the fact he talks about like mana. Meanwhile, he literally believes in fucking all that dosha bullshit. Do you know what I mean?
You know, I'd love to hear more details about jaded streamer resentment, defensiveness.
True Huncho.
And so, if you want to talk down the road,
to chat again.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally know what you mean. I had this problem, and I had to talk to my therapist about it a lot. Actually,
hang on a sec. Is this Overwatch? Are you telling me that Pokimane talked to Dr. K and then has been playing Overwatch? Valorant. Wait, it's even worse then. Wait, that's even fucking worse. Valorant fucking sucks. Valorant fucking sucks.
my therapist is Dr. K.
If there is a concern about the client's well-being,
it's all the same, you fucking nerd. Shut up.
You are bound to, in some way, get a hold of the authorities or take any steps that you can take for the best interest of the client.
Well, you need to assess them. You need to assess them for, basically do a suicide assessment where you look at intent, plan, means, history, and if you determine that they're imminent threat to themselves, you basically initiate getting them to a hospital or getting them into some sort of protective custody. So that might look like encouraging them to, voluntarily go to the ER or go to a behavioral health unit. If they're unwilling to do that, and you believe that they're of imminent risk to themselves, I would basically say either you go voluntarily, or I would probably call 911 or call the police or an ambulance to get them to a hospital, to assess them, to get them to a hospital.
Well, I could kill myself, and I've thought about it so many days, so many times.
Jesus.
So I already had a plan on how I was gonna do it.
Okay, are your providers aware of that?
No.
Okay. Can we talk for a second about that?
Mm-hmm.
What keeps you from sharing that with them?
I haven't really seen my psychiatrist since like 2017.
Okay. So maybe give them a call and kind of let them know what you're going through. Because I know as a psychiatrist, one of the things, the most difficult thing about my job is when I'm there to help someone and they don't let me know that they need help. And so if you're going through this stuff, I would strongly recommend that you reach out to your psychiatrist and kind of let them know that something is going on. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to change your medication or anything like that.
I mean, I'm not going to be able to do it because my friends literally, like, they chase me around everywhere.
What do you mean?
Like, my friends don't let me be alone because they know.
No, you're talking about you're not going to be able to kill yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not
left alone ever.
Okay, so Natalia, that's reassuring. And also, whether you're left alone or not, I think is actually like besides the point, because the point here is that you're suffering and there may be things that people can do for you or that you can do for yourself to suffer less.
I just want to be a different person. I don't like being me anymore.
That hurts to hear, because I don't think that I don't think it's fair for you to not like the person that at least I'm talking to. I like the person I'm talking to. I think you're a wonderful person.
That's sweet, thank you.
Tell her about reincarnation, Giga Chad. Okay, let's just continue.
Why do you think I think that? So what do you mean by happier?
I wake up and I don't want to kill myself. Thanks to you. Pretty
That's
sure.
a plus.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean that's a plus. I don't know. So I appreciate that you feel I'm somewhat responsible for this. I'm grateful for that. I think, as I tell most people, we've spent 1 hour a week together over the last, 2 months?
You being there to guide me in the right direction, even if you just talk to me for 5 minutes, I could end up dwelling and thinking about it for one thing you say, I could think about for 100 hours, right? For the whole, every waking hour of the week, I could think about it.
Okay.
Fucking hell, this is bleak.
So we got 16 waking hours a day, 70 plus 42, 112 hours, right? 112 hours of therapy happening from one thing you say. I take it with me through the whole week kind of thing.
Yeah, but that's the key thing. So that I'll accept in a moment. I'll agree with that. But I think the main thing here is that the work is not just what we do together. It's what you do in your mind after we talk.
I feel like everything in my life is coming together. And it actually feels like I have cheat codes on. It just feels like everything's working every time. It feels too easy. Everything's working. Anything I do just works. And then before, everything was really hard. Because a year ago, my mom and I were talking about doing a suicide pact and both dying, and now like everyone's happy. So,
Is your mom happy?
My mom's happier now.
Fucking hell. This dude is super vulnerable. When someone is in this like level, you've got to have the utmost like delicacy in dealing with it. From like a medical perspective, from the medical, like you've got to be so correct in how you deal with that. Like, and this is all just getting fucking like, oh my God. This is just getting broadcast. This is just getting broadcast to everyone. How are you making sure? This is why, like the perverse incentive that comes from making content, there's got to be some hard lines on that, right? Especially if you're a doctor yourself. This is madness.
I think she's happier because I'm happy. Like chain reaction.
You guys sound close. Sounds like
close emotionally, but we don't talk all the time. Yeah.
Thanks, Nicholas.
So, Reckful, is there something in particular that you'd like to talk about today?
No.
Okay. Then let me...
Holy shit, the more Dr. K we see, the worse it gets. How did this guy get away with this for so long?
Dr. K has been hiding in plain sight. And he's benefited from a lot of different things. Like Jesus. This might be the worst clip in the entire video, to be honest.
We probably are living in a simulation. Maybe I should just, should I get us out of here?
Wait, what was that?
About today?
We probably are living in a simulation. Maybe I should just, should I get us out of here? Maybe the trick is that I need to die to get to the next part. There's another game. Should I risk it and find out? No?
On July 2nd, 2020, after a number of attempts narrowly thwarted by his friends, Reckful killed himself. In the days prior, Reckful's friends reached out to Dr. K and asked him for advice. On June 30th, Dr. K was told that Reckful would voluntarily hospitalize himself on July 3rd. After Reckful's death on July 2nd, Dr. K told Reckful's friends to leave his name out of the account of Reckful's final days.
The conditional answer I'm going to give you is that if there's a suicide attempt and you're aware of it, you probably should commit the patient. And I know I'm not just saying that because this is like a hindsight is 2020 kind of thing where you happen to know he died after. This is just what's done when people are standing on chairs trying to hang themselves.
My name is Alo Kanoja. I'm a psychiatrist practicing in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. Just a reminder that everything that we do on stream is intended to educate and support y'all, but nothing is intended to be medical advice. And I will say this now more than ever, that this is not a substitute for mental health treatment. A lot of people will reach out to me and say, Dr. K, I'll pay you whatever you want. I just want one session. And I want to make this clear that one session with me is not going to fix your problems. I know that's what people think. 6 sessions with me is not going to fix your problems.
Welcome to Chud Nation. Thanks for the
Yeah, I mean, what fixes problems is actual mental health treatment.
See, look at this, like. And I think this is what I you know, when people say Dr. K is seen as somehow the victim, or somehow, like, the focus is on Dr. K here, right? Who are the hearts for? Who are the hearts for if not for Dr. K? Like, it's very fucking fucked.
And we try really hard to support people into getting that when necessary. Despite all of Reckful's, out of everything that he gave to us, I think at the end of it, unfortunately, he was fighting it alone. And he lost. But just because he lost doesn't mean that you have to. So what happens when a champion falls? He gave us so much. Like, I remember, you know, being like a 20-year-old kid playing WoW and like watching his videos, and I was like, damn, that guy's awesome. Like, I wish I could be like that good at WoW. I was a fan. He was a friend of mine. And what do we do when a champion falls? Do we stop fighting? It's a personal battle and all of us have to fight it. But you have to fight it, but you don't have to fight it alone. So I've got a pretty big HP pool. I've got 100 hit points. I lost 80 of them yesterday. I lost most of my HP bar. And I'm, you know, it's kind of like in a game when, so my HP bar is flashing and my UI is like red at the corners. Because I can't take much more of this. And every time I work with someone, I give a piece of myself to them. And yesterday, the piece that I had given to Reckful died with him.
Jesus
That's
Christ.
what happens. A piece of us died yesterday. And I need your help, and I need you to live. And I need everything.
The blood is on your hands. Jesus. Even back then, people were...
that we do here to be worth it. And I need you all to get better, because I can't do this alone.
drowned out.
I can't take much more of this. I need you to be better. I need you to be happy. I need you to find hope and meaning in your life, because that's what keeps me going. I can't take much more sadness, because I'm only human. I give a piece of myself to each and every one of you, and I give it willingly. But I don't have that much left to give. I just can't, guys. I'm sorry. Thank you guys very much for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Nah.
And let's not let him down.
You see, like, I don't know what level of malicious intent, if any, I can assign to Dr. K here, okay? Regardless of what the intent is, you can see why people frame it or talk about it as if Dr. K is somehow a victim in all of this, okay? And the reason that people come out and they say, oh no, you can't talk about Reckful, that's bad, that's wrong, etc. Because of shit like this. Like, with everything that he's done in this situation, how is this in any way, like, appropriate? How is this appropriate? Do you see where I'm coming from?
You may have an innovative approach that you absolutely believe in, and the possibility is that you could be wrong. It's a little bit of a stretch to say, well, I know better than thousands of other people with my training and experience, but all of them are in one camp and I'm in another, and I'm right and they're wrong. You know, there's a certain amount of humility and wisdom that needs to come from professionals. A good...
So this is where, like, I would sort of point to the fact that there's that clip where Dr. K says, you know, I'm different to everyone else. I'm built different, more or less. You know, I use Ayurveda. Like, I don't think there's, like, a lot of crossover per se, but something like that, I think that, yeah, Dr. K, I think, does think a lot of himself, and he does think that the work he is engaged in is somehow more meaningful or better than other people doing the same sort of thing, you know?
Solid therapy process in relationship is unlike anything else that we run into. It is something that involves the client going deeply into their thinking, their emotions, talking about their behavior. They will go to places that they have never gone before, and they will need a guide for that. And there is some real harm that can happen if they find themselves in a place that they didn't expect to be. They find some issues that they didn't expect to find, and then they don't have the support and help and the guidance to deal with that, to work with that, and maybe at times come out of that. And that can be so tricky that it is essential that licensing boards, for example, they know that. They know their job primarily is to protect the public, is to expect professionals to be professional and to hold up the highest ethics with their clients. These are standards, these are aspirational issues.
Near the end now.
And the licensing boards must be able to hold the professionals to a high standard, and if they don't, then people are going to be harmed. And that's the purpose of a licensing board, is to avoid the harm.
Ethics guidelines are there because at some point somebody got hurt. And at minimum, you have to consult with a colleague. You have to consult with people to explore potential harms that might come. And sometimes we have blind spots. Sometimes we think we have great ideas, and we might be missing a part of it that we haven't thought about. And to think that we have all the answers to something without running it by someone, specifically when it goes against an ethical guideline, it's arrogant. You're putting your clients at risk. Now, if you want to test something out experimentally, you know, there are specific IRBs and internal review boards that you can go and do a study if you want to see if that actually can help people. So if you really do want to go and try out some new therapy, that's fine, but go and do it in such a way that minimizes risk to the people that you're working with.
Wow. There we go. Damn. That was a great video. I appreciate that he's a contentious figure for some people, but, you know, I'd really recommend, like, going and checking it out, watching it yourself. I think that, like, one of the great things I think about this video is the fact that MrGirl, like, what was his contribution to this? It was obviously putting it together, but I mean, in terms of being in the video, like, what you see his finger, and he says, like, what, a couple of lines. Like, his decision to take a step back, it's clearly an intentional thing, to take a step back. from the kind of what's going on, and really just have people speak of the, you know, the professionals talk about it, have just footage of Dr. K in his video talk, you know, it's, yeah, this is like bang to rights. Like I'm trying to think, like, what is there that he got wrong or he missed, or what is the error? I suppose maybe if you want to, maybe some people might say, oh, we should have people from the other side as well, like people that would defend Dr. K in some way. Maybe there's an angle there you could criticize it for, but like, I don't know. I'm genuinely trying to think, what is there to be critical of in that? And I just, unless we're talking about like, oh, he should have done more, he should have included more stuff.